Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today, as you can see in the title of the video, I wanted to talk about what it would be like to get better. Now the reason that this kind of came up is because, as you have heard me discuss in previous videos, I've been looking into regenerative medicine. Not that that's a miracle cure, but I guess the fleeting thought of what if my condition improved enough for me to, I guess, get back out there. Now, I don't anticipate this happening at all. So, this is, I guess, just wishful thinking. But when I really started to think about it, the possibility of, let's say, returning to work, or just being able to do, you know, routine things on my own, it was sort of like a reality check, and you'll see what I mean. At this point in my illness, I have been disabled. I have been, I think, officially disabled for almost a decade. As far as like not being able to work, not being able to, do everything on my own. I think it's been close to 10 years. My illness it's been 15, or I think probably 16 years at this point, that I've had symptoms or medical issues, just coming and going. But as far as being completely disabled and not able to, I guess, function normally, that's been about, I would say, close to a decade. So what does that look like, going back out into the world after being sick for that long? Now, obviously, I don't like being sick. None of us like being sick, day after day. But one thing that non-sick people and non-disabled people don't understand is that even if you do get better, life doesn't just snap back to where you left off. It doesn't just resume. So one of the things, obviously, like if you're able to go back to work, you're obviously not going to have any work history, depending on how long you've been sick. Like I said, for me, it's been about a decade of not working. You have no work history. So you know, I'm in my late 30s and I'm going to re-enter the workforce with zero experience, basically. And, I do have a bachelor's degree. I do have, an education, and I'm going to be basically entry level. So that's something that a lot of people really don't think about, that you're not just going to, if you don't have the experience, what are you qualified to do? You're just going to go into an entry level job and make very little and stress yourself out over that. So you're going to start at the bottom. You're going to have low pay. You're likely going to be in the same situation that you're in now, or at least I would be. I'd still have to live with parents. I'd still have to, have some assistance from them, possibly financially, until I can save up enough money to get back out there. And then of course, if you get a job, I do have a car. My car is very old. The only reason I'm not getting a new car is because I don't need a new car. I don't go anywhere. So, what would I need a new car for? Obviously, if I get a job, I may need a reliable car to get me to that job. So then you get back into debt, right? You buy a car, get into debt. Maybe you save up enough money to buy a house, or I don't know. To me, I started thinking about it and I was like, wow, this is very complicated. And also too, I don't really know, I haven't really met anybody that has gotten better, that has been very, very sick for a while and gotten better and gotten back to work. People either work through their illness. There are some people that I have met in support groups that were still working while they were battling their illness, and or they are disabled, they go on disability and they never, they're just sick like me for a long time, and they're not getting better or better enough to go back to work. So it's hard for me to really gauge. It would be interesting if any of you out there have actually gotten better, to leave your experience down below and let us know, like, what happened. How long were you disabled for, and how difficult was it to get back to life? Of course, when you are disabled, you're receiving Social Security disability benefits, you can't work, so you can't make money, because if the IRS finds out, you'll get in trouble and you can lose your Social Security benefits. Obviously, if you get better and you're able to work, you have to give that up if you do go back to work. So there's always that question of, you know, is it worth it for me to give this up? Am I going to be making enough to am I going to be making more than what I was getting from Social Security? Do I feel confident enough that I can maintain a full-time job? And that's a really big decision, because getting Social Security is very, very difficult. You often have to get an attorney, and they have to like go to court for you, and all of that. And then you pay them like thousands of dollars from your Social Security, and to lose that. I have heard, I think my tax lady had told me once, she said, if you lose your Social Security, if you mess up and you end up losing it, it's really, really hard to get it back. So the fact that you got it in the first place, keep it. Don't screw up. Don't mess this one up, because it's a very difficult process to get it back if you do lose it. So I always have that in my mind, like, even if I got better, is it worth giving that up because of my next point? Mentally, I think, obviously, if you got better, realistically, I feel like if my condition improved, I wouldn't be 100% better. I don't think anybody whose condition does improve from a chronic illness is ever 100%. Obviously, regular aging is going to have its effect, but also, I don't think a chronic condition, because you are older, you don't regenerate as well as you do when you're younger. So you're not going to be 100% who you were, especially if it's been 10 years. You're not going to go back. I'm not going to go back to like 30-year-old me. So you're always going to have that. You're always going to have some kind of issue, or some kind of maybe pain that comes and goes, fatigue that comes and goes, some lingering digestive problems, in my case. And so that mentally, physically, I don't think you'll ever 100% escape it. Mentally, I think it's even worse. I've had this conversation with my therapist before, especially when I'm really hitting a low point, where I tell her, like, I don't understand the point. I don't get why I am fighting this hard, and why I am looking for other solutions to this issue, why I'm looking into regenerative medicine, why I keep looking into different supplements and things to help me out, because even if I got better, my life is never going back to what it was. And then I really go off the deep end with that. But truly, mentally, you're not going to go back to where you were. I can't see myself improving, but then being like, okay, great, I can go back to work because I will be totally fine. I'm not going to be stressed out. I'm going to go back to work and things are going to be great. I'm going to go back to dating. I'm going to find someone. I'm going to get married. Things are going to be great. I'm going to have kids or something. In my mind, I'm like, there's no way, even if I regained most of my health, there is no way that mentally I could do those things. I don't know if, in my mind, I would always be questioning whether I could get sick again. That would always be on my mind. What if I relapse? Not that I would be 100% well to begin with. How could I get into a relationship knowing that I was this sick and that I could, affect somebody else's life with my illness if I were to get sick again? I think that thought of, if I were to get sick again, if I were to get sick, relapse and have my symptoms come back, that would always be on my mind. I think if my health improved, my mental health would also improve to a certain extent. But the fact that I was sick to begin with is is always going to be there. 10 years does not just disappear. It's not just a memory that you can erase. I might forget some things, some of the horrible things that I've been through, but it's such a big chunk of my life that I don't think I would be able to just completely, you know, let it go. And I think there would be a lot of hesitation to get back to life. And that also goes back to giving up Social Security. I'm going to give up Social Security, and um, with the possibility always lingering in the back of my mind that I could become sick again. Um, but how could I go back to, say, dating, which is kind of, I guess, lower risk if you compare that with working? Um, I'm also older now. I'm, in my late 30s, and everybody in my age group has kids. And some of their kids are already getting older. They have spouses or exes. I mean, they have an ex, they have an ex-wife, or a they're co-parenting with someone else, and you're going to go back out into this world that has completely changed in a decade, right? So it's a lot of lost time, and a lot of it's almost like, I guess, being frozen in time in a way. Like 10 years ago was what, 2011, and a lot has happened in a decade. So mentally, I don't know if I would ever be in the right headspace to just go out there and be like, oh, I'm just gonna go out and date, and go shopping, buy a car. It's like I'm always going to have that lingering fear of, this could come back. I can't spend money because what if I need it to pay medical bills? I can't give up my Social Security and my Medicare because I could get sick again, right? So there's always that. There's always that preoccupation in the back of my mind. And, to me, I feel like chronic illness is a prison, even if you get better. And this is just me. I mean, obviously, I would do anything to get better. I'm not saying that I don't want to get better. I think what I'm trying to do is get non-sick people to understand that chronic illness is so much more, and it affects us so much more deeply than just the physical aspect. And even if we were to get better, there would always be that preoccupation. And that's why I say chronic illness is a prison. You may be released from prison, and this actually happens with actual people that go to prison. You might be released from prison, but you've become so accustomed to being in that prison that you're afraid. You're afraid of the real world out there and getting back to life, because you've been out of it for such a long time. You don't know what that's like anymore, and you don't know how to navigate that life, because you haven't in a very long time. And so those are the conversations that I have, with my therapist, where I say, it doesn't matter if I get better. I can't go back to life. I can't go back to, things as usual, because I'm always going to have this fear in the back of my mind that I could get sick again, right? And what's the point? What's the point of getting better in the first place if life is never just gonna be good again? I don't want to bring anybody down. Obviously, like I said, I would do anything to get better. I am doing anything and everything I can to get better, and there's nothing that I want more than to get my health back. But it would be difficult. It would be difficult, and even getting your health back may not mean that you're ready to get out there, or that you're ready to give up the security blanket that you have right now, which could be your Social Security, your Medicare, and living with a family member and all of that, and also to the guilt that comes with affecting someone else. And I know that is a controversial issue in the disability community. There are people that say you have a right to date, you have a right to be married, you have a right to do all of those things like anybody else. I have my own views on that. I have a lot of guilt from, affecting other people, affecting a spouse, affecting my own family. And that's something that I struggle with. And even if I got better, I would still struggle with that. The possibility of hurting someone with my illness or with my issues related to my illness. So yeah, if you were expecting an uplifting video, my apologies. That's not where this video was headed. But these are things that came to my mind. And I've thought about this in the past before when I started new medications and when I kind of have this hopeful outlook for the future. And I mean, it's realistic, I think, to think this. A lot of people that are not chronically ill, they sort of think, okay, you're gonna get better and just get back out there. You're gonna get a job, you're gonna get married, you're gonna do all these things, have children. And that's not the way that it works when you have a chronic condition. And even when it improves significantly, things just don't go back to business as usual. It just doesn't. It can't. Mentally you're not ever going to be the same. It doesn't mean that you won't enjoy life. I do think I would enjoy life a lot more if I wasn't constantly feeling like garbage. But realistically, I do think we need to take time to adapt and to transition back into real life, and also take time to see if whatever improvement we're experiencing is going to stick around for a while, because oftentimes it doesn't. I have seen people, or I have heard stories of people that have done stem cells and they go into remission for like 9 months and then they're back at square one. Granted, it's probably the best 9 months that they've had in a long time, but you have to wait and see if these improvements are going to hold. There are people that experience remission with Lyme disease, and because they go through the antibiotic treatment, they get better, they feel great, and then a few years later they relapse and they have to go through treatment again. And I think that is just the nature of chronic illness. It can improve, it can get better, but your body is just not the same anymore. So yeah, that's what I have for you guys today. I hope I wasn't too much of a downer. These things pop into my mind, and yes, it is a negative cycle. I know that it would help if I was a little bit more positive, but I consider myself a realist. I am not someone that gets my hopes up too high with anything. And I feel like that just keeps me safer, I guess. Mentally keeps me a little bit in a safer place. But it doesn't stop me from visualizing that. I don't stop visualizing myself as a healthier person, gaining weight, not having significant stomach issues. I don't rule that out. And I do think visualizing that might help. But I don't like getting ahead of myself either. So that's what I have for you guys today. Leave your comments down below. Let me know if you've ever thought about this and thought about what life would be like. And if you have gotten better, that would be great to hear from you and to hear from your experience improving and what life was like post improvement. I'm very interested in that. I don't think enough people tell those stories. I think we just always hear about the ongoing chronic illness. But it would be interesting to hear from those of you that have gotten better. So please like and subscribe, and I will see you again soon. Take care.